Tell us about the goat. When you guys bought that goat, how'd that work out?
Timmy's the little goat man.
Well, Billy had a goat.
Right.
Billy, this goat. Okay. And the goat had ate his minnows out of his. He was going to go fishing. The goat ate the minnows. He was going to shoot the goat, but so Bernie Milliken, Joe Milliken's brother, and I were there, and so Bernie said, "Well, we'll take the goat." Well, I had an old Dodge that I drove back and forth to work, old Dodge Dart, and so we transported the goat in the back of the Dodge Dart, and I was working on trucks then. I had a lunch pail, and so we had a bunch of peanut hulls, and we put the peanut hulls in the lunch pail, so the goat ate the peanut hulls. Well, we went to Bernie's. Bernie said, "I'll take the goat." So we got to his house, and we got the goat out, and he was showing his wife the goat. He had two little girls.
Yeah.
And of course, they were all excited. They come running out there, and the goat somehow got away and got on the back porch. And his wife had a fit. And she was like, "Get that thing out of here. It's probably got all kinds of diseases." So Bernie said, "Well," he said, so he tied it out back, and then later on he took it up to Frank, his father. He wanted. His dad lived down the road from a guy that they had goats and sold milk. People had stomach trouble. Because a lot of people that drank goat milk that had stomach issues. So he took the goat, but Bernie and I delivered it. We took it to Frank, and he said, "Just stay in the truck." And so we went down, and he sold it to the guy, and we delivered it.
Who did you get the goat from originally?
Billy
Biscuit.
Yeah, Billy.
So you ended up having to give it away. Did you pay for the goat?
No, he had to pay for Frank to take it.
You had to pay somebody to take the goat back.
Frank said, "If you'll tie $5 to his tail, I'll take it." And then we had to deliver it on top of that.
Yeah.
And of course, Bernie, it was in my truck and everything, so Bernie didn't have nothing invested in nothing.
Oh, God.
So
I love it. Yeah, I always heard that goat story over the years.
So, what was it like working here with Daddy in his prime and Lee Boy and Richard in their primes?
it was, I mean, it's like Bob Gower and I talked to, he worked here. I mean, at the time, it was, you worked hard and you didn't make all that much money, but we think back on it now, and it's sort of like everything else. It was the best of times. I mean, we enjoyed what we did, and we had a good time, and it was stressful sometimes, but everything is.
And messed around and won a few races in between, right?
Yeah. Apparently we did something right along the
There you go,
Sir, I would agree with that.
I don't know how all that happened, but I will say this: we had good leadership. We did. I mean, your dad, I always appreciated him because you do something and he'd rip you, and then he'd go off and he'd come back 3 minutes later, and we're moving on. This is over. This is back here. Now we're going on, and I always liked that.
Well, I know he always liked you because anytime he had something going on, he's always bringing you back or whatever. Because you was involved with the one car, you were involved with when Kyle had the 7-Eleven when they came back and put the engine shop back in. He brought you back in then, and he was there for the one car. He was there for that. So he was always one of his go-to guys.
Well, I said I thought a lot of him, and hopefully he thought a lot of me. He must have, I guess, but I had a work ethic, and that's, of course, you about had to have one to work here. Otherwise, if you didn't have a work ethic, you didn't last long.
And y'all was a team, and we talk about it. Y'all spent more time together than you spent at home with your family.
That's right.
Because you're here working so much. I mean, you become a family.
And then when me and Mark started running late models and stuff, we put together a couple of engines. You was involved helping with that. You and Bruce Owens and people like that was helping us. And then when you go to the racetrack, you just look up, and here would be Rick Potter at the racetrack helping us at the racetrack. He's been involved with our crowd for a long time. And I guess when did you leave from up here? You was here till 2000s, wasn't you?
Yeah, I came back in 2000 when they went back to Dodge.
Right.
And I had been working for Bill
Davis.
Davis.
Yeah.
And that wasn't going well over there. And I talked to can't think of his name now. Was running the motor program.
Rick.
I can't.
Rick Mann.
No.
Bob Dale.
Bob Dell.
Bob Dale,
Bob
yep.
Called him and he said, yeah, they were looking for somebody to line hone and do lifter bores and stuff. And so I went to come to work then. Of course, it lasted about a year, and then that was the end of that.
Moved on,
They got rid of the motor program, and that went over to.
Well, we tried to
Yates,
get
I
you
guess
back
it was.
on the
Yeah.
on the truck deal, but you said I'm retired. I'm done.
Well, your dad called me one time about coming to work when you all had this down here.
Yes, sir.
And he said, I got to run it by Richard. He said, because it's his deal. And he said, we're looking for somebody. He said, you get along good with the boys. And he said, and so on. I said, yeah. I said, I'd be interested. And then he called back later and said, Richard wasn't interested. So,
Just
okay.
wasn't meant to be.
That's right.
Wasn't
I
meant to be.
hate that because that would have been fun.
Well, you was always one of them guys that you'd come over and eat supper with us, or Mom would have something on the table for lunch or something. You was always welcome at the kitchen table. So you were a special person to this
Well,
family.
I remember one time she had a birthday party for Billy Bisco when
Yeah.
when he used to,
Help us when
And
we
I
was
was-
racing, yeah.
and I was invited to that. And my God, I never saw so much food. We had spaghetti, we had prime
It was
rib,
a feast.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was like in a birthday cake half the size of this table. It was just. But I remember that.
Yeah.
I
Any other good stories that you want to share with the?
No, I do. They Chrysler had come up with a deal. I don't know if you all remember they had some 180-degree headers that they ran for a while. And they made the cars sound funny.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they also had some 180-degree crankshafts, and so Chrysler thought, well, they would like to try one of them deals. So we built the motor down here and so on. And I got in to build the motor and stuff, and they didn't really had the heads from the regular heads from truck heads, that weren't heavy.
Okay.
And so we got in there and doing that. We didn't really have any head gaskets for it and stuff, and it was just. So I'm in there working on it, and so we used to have to, when we first started the small block, we used to have to spray the gaskets with this stuff, and it had to set for about 2 hours and dry before you could put them on the motor. So I got the gaskets sprayed, and I went out. I said, "We need to spray those gaskets." He said, "You don't have them cylinder heads on that motor yet?" And I said, "No, sir." He said, "I want that motor done tomorrow." I said, "Okay." So I'm back in there. I got the gasket sprayed, and here he comes. Break time. I said, he said, "Come on, let's take a break." I said, "No."
No way.
No way. And he's about the third time. He said, "Come on." He said, let's get his coat. I said, "No." "Well, what's wrong?" I said, "If I go and take a break for 20 minutes and I don't get this motor gun, what am I going to tell you?" Out the door he went, and that's all. That was the end of that. But it was funny. But I mean, that we had that deal, and then once that was over with, it was over with. And
Yeah.
then we got the motor done, got it on the dyno, and the thing, it sputtered and bellowed and this and that and wouldn't run. I don't know what they finally figured out was wrong with it, but something about the intake manifold or something wasn't. Needed some baffles in it or something because of the way it ran. I don't know, but they put it up in the Chrysler barn.
That's the motor. It sits up in the museum right now.
It may be.
Yeah, it's that baby blue one, right?
Is it? It's like a wedge headed.
Don't sit up there by that
It
Hemi and
was-
that.
it was a wedge head.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Still,
that
yeah.
engine's still sitting in the Petty Museum.
Because I remember them putting it up there in the thing.
Experimental.
Yeah, that's what it's
Never heard
said. Yeah.
Never heard anything more about it.
Well, that's good to hear that story because I've seen
Yeah,
that
I didn't
engine.
know either.
I've seen that engine in the museum and I knew a little bit,
Yeah,
but
it's like-
there's the rest
It's
of
like
the
you
story.
always tell us, we always learn something new when we get
Every
to talking
time.
to
Yeah,
everybody.
every time.
Now, do you want to tell the story about Louise and the ice storm?
Oh, now poor Louise.
What?
Louise Laughlin and the
Oh, yeah. I'd come out late one night, and she was coming out of the office, and it rained and froze. And I heard a noise, and And I looked, and she's halfway under the driver's side of her car, and she's said, "Louise, you all right?" I slipped, and so I went over and got her, drug out from under there, and got her stood up and got her in the car and everything. I said, "You sure you're all right?" Yeah, I'm okay.
But I thought you'd come out of the race shop, and I thought you heard someone, help.
Well, maybe she did something, but
And you looked over and there was poor old Louise. She done fell on the ice.
Didn't she page herself one time?
I think she had done that more than once. I think.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
But Louise was.
Oh man, yeah.
She was one of the things that made Petty
yeah.
Enterprises work because
Yeah.
she was the accountant, the bookkeeper, and,
Yeah.
I mean it come to the penny for her.
Oh yeah.
She won a lot of awards. It's like
She
state
did.
accountant of the year or something.
But she was one that she would call out Richard, Morris, or Lee on spending money, and they would listen
Oh,
to
yeah.
her.
That's right. They all feared Louise.
They listened to her.
She Eddie Middleton's dad would buy used parts, and he would come down and buy
Red.
Red,
Yeah.
Red Middleton, and he'd come up there and say, "You got anything used?" He'd go through the stuff up there, and then he'd say, "Well, I'll take this, 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 and this." And then we'd, I said, "I ain't taking no money, Lee. We'll walk up to the office, and I'll tell Louise, you got this, and this is how much it was, and blah blah blah." So we'd do that, and he'd pay her. Then he'd, on the way back to the motor room, he'd hand me $50. He'd say, "Here, y'all, you go out to eat in the motor room on me." And but she would always collect the money and give him a.
Receipt.
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes,
awesome.
sir. 'Cause it was always on the up and up with her. Yep.
She was,
Well, Rick, thanks for coming.
well, I've
Yep.
enjoyed it,
Thanks for stopping by.
I appreciate it.
and I've enjoyed working here, and I've enjoyed seeing y'all grow up, and you get to see me grow old, and we were all.
Well, we've known you all our life.
Well, and Rick, and next month he's fixing to turn 80 years old. So happy birthday to Rick Potter.
Yep. Happy
Happy
80th.
birthday.
Thank you all.